The 1970s were never just a run of years. They were a texture. A record playing somewhere in the house, a football thudding against the wall, a bike dropped against the pavement, a mother calling from the doorway, or a news bulletin that made the room go quiet. Even a Christmas song that 50 years later can still take you straight back to the same wallpaper, the same room, and that same feeling. That is how the decade really lives in people. Not as facts on a page, but as music, weather, money, clothes, headlines, games, films, playgrounds, and ordinary days all pressed together. Hi, I'm Stickman, and welcome once again to Britain the Way We Were. The year is 1970, and Britain was entering a new decade, but the sound of the 1960s had not gone away yet. In some ways, it seemed to be fading out in the public. The biggest symbol of that was the Beatles. They were still there with Let It Be and The Long and the Winding Road, but those songs didn't feel like the bright beginnings. They felt like an aftermath. They felt tired in a human way, reflective, almost sorrowful. You could hear the end of something in them. Even people who were not obsessive Beatle fans could sense that something monumental was breaking apart. Then, alongside that, came Bridge Over Troubled Water by Simon and Garfunkel. And that was one of those records that seemed to stop time for a moment. It was big and emotional, but calm at the same time. It had a seriousness to it. The kind of song that people actually listened to, no, not just had on. That mattered in 1970 because music still often asked for your attention rather than just filling the air. But the air changed quickly. Mungo Jerry came along with In the Summertime, and suddenly the whole mood lifted. That song sounded like heat on the pavement, open car windows, grass, parks and freedom. It was loose, cheerful and easy in a way that made it feel completely natural. It did not strain to be clever. It just felt good. And that is often what people remember most strongly. The records that felt like they belonged to the weather. Then there was All Right Now by Free. That was a different sort of pleasure altogether. More solid, more rooted, a proper riff. A proper bit of British rock. It felt like a song you could imagine blaring out in ordinary places. From a radio in a garage, from a pub jukebox, from a bedroom where someone had turned the volume up because they liked the sound of a guitar that meant business. T-Rex were beginning to change things too, though not yet at full blast. Ryder White Swan hinted that pop was about to become stranger, more theatrical, more stylised. Mark Bolan sounded like someone stepping in from another room the rest of the pop had not discovered yet. Soul still had huge force as well. Diana Ross with Ain't No Mountain High Enough brought grandeur and uplift. Frida Payne with Band of Gold brought heartbreak dressed as a perfect single. Those songs reminded you that charts could hold drama, pain and melody all at once. There were other sounds moving through the year as well. Smokey Robinson and the Miracles with Tears of a Clown had that strange, perfect combination of brightness and sadness that soul so often managed better than anyone else. Edison Lighthouse with Love Grows carried a different kind of ease again. Light, catchy, unburdened. Exactly the sort of song that could drift into ordinary life and stay there. And England's football story even gave the charts back home a reminder that in Britain songs are often tied not just to records and radio, but to hopes, tournaments, shared moods and national occasions. And outside the charts, everyday life still carried a certain plainness. Bread cost only pennies, milk was still delivered, cigarettes were ordinary enough to be part of the furniture of adult life. To children, though, none of that meant much. What mattered was being outside. You kicked a ball against a wall until someone shouted at you. You played British Bulldog. You played marbles. You climbed trees and fences. You got dirty. You got wet. You got told off. And then you went out again the next day and did exactly the same thing. When you were indoors, evenings had more shape to them. A board game could take over the room. Monopoly was not just a game of property, it was an event. It was a family mood made visible. It was piles of paper money, little metal pieces, slow burning arguments, alliances, cheating, resentment, triumph. Cluedo, on the other hand, felt different. Quieter, more mysterious, almost sophisticated to a child. It let you feel that you were solving something important. And then there were bikes. The Rally Chopper was not just transport, it was aspiration. It looked futuristic and faintly ridiculous and completely wonderful. It did not matter if it wasn't the fastest bike in the world, it mattered that it looked like freedom. Then we have cinema. That gave people scale as well. Love Story brought emotion and tears. Airport brought tension and spectacle. Films still felt like shared national experiences back then. People didn't just see them, they talked about them afterwards. The world itself felt large and dramatic. England went to the World Cup in Mexico and failed. The Apollo 13 mission made people hold their breath in front of television bulletins. When the news came in, people stopped for it. And then Christmas 1970 belonged to Dave Edmunds with I Hear You Knocking. Not a festive song in itself, but that hardly mattered. Christmas number one in Britain has never only been about sleigh bells. It has been about the song that took possession of a country in December. And that one did. Join me next time when we discover 1971. I'm Stickman. This has been Britain the way we were. And that's your lot.